Good morning. I'm Secretary of Agriculture Ed Wengren, and I'm here with Alex Gillett from our Beneficial Insect Lab, and we're here at Chickadee Creek Organic Farm, where we're going to do a field inspection for Mexican bean beetle. So how would a farmer or a scout determine how many insects would be needed to address an infestation?
That's a good question that we get asked often. There's not an exact ratio like you might find on a pesticide label to use, but you really want to go by how large the field is and specifically how much of an infestation you have. So really it's the number of pests that are out there that you want to guess how many wasps that you need. So for example, if you're seeing tiny little larvae that are only first or second instars, or you're just seeing maybe some eggs laid, you might get 1 or 2 bags of mummies. Or if you have a larger infestation with larger larvae, you might get 2,000 to 4,000 adult wasps.
And what are mummies?
That's a good question too. So mummies are actually the dead skin of a bean beetle larvae that has been parasitized by the wasp, and that contains 25 new little baby wasps that are going to come out and start working on the next generation of larvae. So those are a little bit more of a slow release method, where those are going to come out a few days after you put them out in your field, and they'll kind of release themselves a little bit gradually. Whereas if you're releasing adults, they'll just come in a cup and they'll get to work right away.
Is there an advantage to one or the other?
It really just depends on the timing of what life stages of the beetle that you have.
So Alex, from our earlier scouting, we realized there is an infestation here. We've got several stages. We have the adults, we have the larvae, and we really have tiny larvae. So recommendation for here was to do an adult release, to really go after the beetles right away and to kind of stop the infestation as fast as we can. I see you've got a container here. Is this how they're kind of shipped to a farmer?
Yes, so this is exactly what a shipment of adults would look like. Maybe a little bigger box if you're getting more, but you would receive a box like this. Ideally, you want to open the box indoors at first, so that the wasps are not shocked by going from a cold box to a 90-degree field. So it's ideal once you receive them to let them have a little time to acclimatize indoors, and then once you're ready to go out into the field, you have it already opened and they're ready to go. You'll also receive an FAQ sheet and instructions in case you don't have this video to hand. So once you're out in the field, you really just need your cup. You'll see they come with a little bit of water and honey to keep them happy during shipment, but you really just need the little wasps inside.
So how would you go about doing a release in a field? We're a little overcast today. Does a sunny day or a cloudy day make a difference?
So ideally you want to not release adults in the heat of the day, but you also don't want to release them if there's a lot of moisture in the field or if it's actively raining. So you want to kind of time it for when it's cool and not in direct sunlight.
So had a little bit of a drizzle this morning, so there is a little dampness, but it looks like we're going to be clearing up for the rest of the day. So okay to go ahead with a release on a day like today, because it is very cool and comfortable this morning.
Yeah, so in terms of temperature, this is a great day for a release. In terms of the moisture on the field, if this looks like the best thing you're going to get in the next few days, you may want to go ahead and release. If you think it's going to dry out a little bit later in the day, if it's going to get sunny and it's going to be cooler in the evening, you may want to just wait till that evening to do the release.
Okay, so how should we start doing a release?
So you'll see that since the wasps have had time to acclimate from the cold box, they're walking all around on the top of the cover. So they're all ready to go.
They are super tiny and very hard to see.
All right, so you just need to open the lid of the cup. If they're warm enough, they'll already start rising to the top and start flying away. And then you can place the lid on the ground. Ideally, if you can get it underneath the canopy of the plant so they're not going to be directly in the sunlight, that's good. And then we'll take the Excelsior and place it directly on top of the lid. So we'll just put that down. And the Excelsior is totally biodegradable, so it's okay if it ends up staying in your field. You can just put that on top. And then the cup you will come back for later, but you can just place the cup down underneath the plants and they will disperse themselves. What you do not want to do is just open the cup and dump them on the ground, because they're very tiny. They could get stuck in moisture or other things, and they may also be not ready to start flying if they're not warm enough yet.
So how soon would you start see them react or work in the field?
So once adults are active, they'll immediately start looking for larvae. There's probably some on larvae already. And once they've got to a larvae, they'll start laying eggs immediately on the larvae, inside the larvae. And then after about, depending on the temperature conditions for the week, after maybe 10 days or so, you may be able to see mummies forming. It may be a little bit sooner than that if you have very hot conditions, but at 77 degrees in the lab, we have them start forming mummies around 10 days. So you should be able to start looking around where your release flag is and start checking and be able to see some of those larvae having turned dark brown rather than the bright yellow that they used to be.
Okay.
And that way you know they're parasitized.
So that was going to be my next question, was how do you recognize if it's working? So the larvae go from their bright healthy yellow to a darker brown color.
Yes, so they'll get brown, they'll get a little bit crunchy, and then if you're able to leave those in your field up until about 14 to 17 days, a new generation of wasps will eclose from those mummies and keep working for you.
And do the mummies die at the end of every season, or do the wasps die at the end of every season, or do you, once you have them in your field, they'll always be in your field?
That's a question we get asked a lot too. So for many biocontrol agents, they will establish and you don't need to continue releasing them perpetually. However, because these wasps are from India, they do not survive the winter here in the US. So while they will reproduce through the whole season, they will die off every winter and you will need to re-release them the following season if you have a bean beetle problem.
So Alex, we're over here in a newer planting of beans, getting ready to flower versus the older mature where we released the adults. Here we're just starting to find like egg masses and really young larvae. So this is the ideal place for putting down mummies instead of the adults?
That's correct. So we've marked off a place where we found, as you said, some egg masses and some newly emerged larvae. So they're really, really tiny first instars.
Oh yeah, they are tiny.
Here you may not want to release adults right away, but you'll release some mummies. So you receive mummies in a box similar to the adults. However, you don't need to worry about acclimatizing them because they do not come with ice. So they'll also come with an instruction sheet about how to release mummies. And you'll find this little brown paper bag. Done with the box. You want to open the paper bag. And you may have more than one satchel depending on how many you need. So this is a mummy bag. You'll see that inside all those are the mummies, which are the dead larvae that are now full of wasps getting ready to eclose. So you do not need to open this. The wasps are small enough to disperse out of the mesh by themselves. We send it to you with a nice little red tie so it's ready to hang up. You may either choose to hang it off of a plant, kind of in the shade, but if your plants are not very tall, you want to make sure that they're high enough off the ground that rodents or anything else don't get to them, or they're not just sitting in water on the ground. So one helpful thing you can do, and also be able to see where you put them previously, is to just bend a flag, and then you have a nice easy place to attach them. They'll be low enough so they'll have a little bit of shade, and you can come back and see how parasitism is doing later.
How far apart would you do an installation like this?
Putting out multiple bags, you could put them at two different ends of a row, but pediobius are extremely good at dispersing themselves, so they will travel even up to a number of miles if they need to find larvae. But if you have a significant amount of larvae in one place and a second location, you may want to put them in opposite ends. If you have plantings in different areas, you may also just put one in one planting and one in the other.
Thank you. Anything else anybody should know about Mexican bean beetle and pediobius?
If you need any further information, we have our website. You can call us, or you can fill in a form on our website to order pediobius. Generally, they're available throughout the growing season, depending on how many orders come in each week. There may be a little bit of a wait time, but we try to get them out either the next day, or if there's a little wait time, up to a week later.
Well, thank you for all this useful information, Alex.
Yeah, thank you.